Hello, abundant entrepreneur. This is the day 5 Tashmas podcast episode. And today I want to ask you a little question. How do you feel about writing down your income goal every day and tracking your income every day? If I told you that those two little habits make a significant difference to your income trajectory and help you to overcome some of the biggest barriers between you and income growth, would that be enough for you to give it a go? In most cases, it's not. People get started and then they don't keep going. They find it yucky, or they don't even start doing this in the first place because they have a bunch of reasons why it doesn't work for them. Well, if that is the case for you, or you want to refresh your excitement and motivation for income tracking and writing down your income goals, this is going to be a very helpful episode. I'm going to share with you why I finally decided to clear my resistance to income goals and money tracking way back in 2013, and how you can clear your resistance to those two activities as well. If you would like to access the show notes and the links for today's episode, as well as an opportunity to win some sexy little prizes, then make sure you go to tashcorbin.com/385, because that is where the show notes are. It is day 5 of Tashmas. Happy Tashmas. Let's dive into this one because I want you to make more money, and I know that this is one of the keys. Let's do it. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Okay, so when I started my business back in 2013, I already had done some courses on money, manifesting, achieving goals. I'd even done a course on how to align with your soul's purpose. And it was really fascinating to me because when I started my business, I remember having dozens of people in my newsfeed, people that I followed, people's courses that I did, where everyone was saying you need to write down your income goals every day. And in fact, some people were saying you should write it down twice a day. Now, I will quote that wild quote that I think is totally made up, but it's that the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is that a millionaire writes down their goals once a day and a billionaire writes their goals down twice a day. I mean, it's giving bypassing. It's giving just write your goals down twice a day and you'll be a billionaire, which I don't think is the whole story, but it was a very, very common quote that was shared over and over again in manifesting circles. The Secret was pretty hot back then. I don't think people talk about it that much these days, but it was definitely something that everyone just believed, and it was totally true. But there have definitely been studies where people have been asked about how often they write their goals down and like the income level of people who write down their goals consistently. I will say that there are huge differences between straight white men and people who've experienced marginalization of some kind. People who've experienced marginalization benefit far more from writing down goals. So yes, there have been some Harvard studies way back in the day, as well as some more recent studies around goal setting and particularly like writing down goals and actually keeping them front of mind. But I just remember at the time, everyone seemed to be saying you need to write down your goals, and there were a lot of money mentors and coaches who advocated for tracking your income each day. So every day, paying attention to what money came in today from all different sources and sending gratitude to that income, paying attention to how you felt about that income and keeping track. It was really important to do that. So it was aligned with a lot of goal setting for different business and marketing strategies. It was I was told that it would keep my goals front of mind, and by keeping your goals front of mind, you're more likely to take aligned action towards them, and you're less likely to get distracted. It was used in manifesting. It was used in The Secret. You would be encouraged in a lot of those manifesting kind of processes to create vision boards and to kind of hack your way to writing down your goals consistently. So change your passwords to be related to your goals. Change your lock screen on your phone to be a vision board of your goals, right? There were all of these different tips and tools and strategies, and they generally revolved around writing down your goals, seeing your goals front of mind all the time, and tracking your progress towards those goals as well. There were some success habits type courses and books and strategies that also talked about this, that one of the most powerful success habits that you can have is to write down your goals at the start of each day. So it was very popular actually back in 2013 for people to carry little notebooks around with them in their handbags. And so you'd be waiting at the doctor's and you would get your little book out and you would write your goals down. Or you would be sitting at your desk before you started, you would write your goals down. So there were even people who sold teeny tiny notebooks that you could carry around, and it literally was just every page was you just writing your goals down. Like, that was how prolific it was back in 2013. And then when I did Money Boot Camp with Denise Duffield-Thomas, which I actually did that the first time around in 2012, something that Denise kind of brought into income tracking that I hadn't heard elsewhere was that writing down your goals could help you to uncover what those thoughts and beliefs are about your goals. So if you write down your goals and your first thought is, there's no way that's going to happen, well, you've just discovered a really powerful money block that needs to be cleared out of the way. And so that definitely piqued my attention at that point in time. Nothing else had really convinced me it was worth it, because my big resistance to writing down my goals was I felt like I was just writing this random number and I didn't feel particularly connected to it. And I didn't feel like I was particularly attached to achieving that goal either. My first income goal in my business was that I wanted to have 10K months as quickly as possible. I think the main reason why I was focused on 10K months was that I saw a lot of people sharing when they hit 10K months, that seemed to be like a big tipping point for people in business. But my connection to 10K months when I was first starting out was really flimsy. I really didn't need to have 10K months straight away, nor did I expect to have 10K months straight away. I knew that I was still going to take some time to get my ducks in a row and get all my marketing taken care of. And I didn't 100% know what I was offering at the time. And so writing down 10K months, it almost felt like it was just putting on undue pressure. And I didn't want to make the goal any lower because that felt like it was the first kind of milestone, but I certainly wasn't expecting to achieve it straight away. So when I heard from Denise that one of the most important insights that comes from writing down your goals regularly is the pop-up thought and the beliefs that make you feel like you can't achieve that goal, I got more excited about writing my income goals down every single day. So I did actually start doing that fairly consistently, but I still wasn't tracking my income results each day. The number one reason I didn't like tracking was because it made me feel yucky to see $0 pretty much every day. I had just started my business. I wasn't expecting to make a lot of sales. And so I wasn't expecting to have many days where there was income to even track. So I felt like tracking my income every day was actually just setting myself up to feel yucky, to feel unsuccessful, to feel like a failure. And once again, it felt like it was just adding weird undue pressure when there was no expectation to make income daily. I had also noticed that amongst other people within that program, people who were tracking their income every single day tended to then focus on selling low ticket products because they felt better making teeny sales daily rather than having lots of $0 days and then a big payment come in. So I didn't want income tracking to lead me to changing my strategy to one that was less profitable and didn't create quick and more effective income growth and high profitability. I didn't want to go into low ticket products too early in my business. And I'm really glad that I had that strategy insight, because it would have been very tempting to go down the path of creating passive income products really early, creating a bunch of $50 things and $97 things. I mean, people used to sell ebooks, like literally just a PDF file for $97. That was such a popular offer back then. And I just felt like, number one, that's really expensive for a PDF. And number two, I would have to sell a ton of PDFs in order to make the same amount of money that I could just make by getting one VIP client. So to me, it wasn't a logical strategy decision to go low ticket in those early stages. And I didn't want the desire to have daily income to drive me towards going into low ticket and kind of sabotaging my strategy. But once again, I had this epiphany of, oh, so every single thing that I keep saying about why I'm not tracking my income is actually an insight into the very reasons why I should be tracking my income and how it would really help and support me. So my belief that I would have more disappointing days than excited days was not serving me. If I tracked my income or not, if that was my default belief, it still existed. It still was impacting my capacity to bring in more income. It was still a money block. It was just that I wasn't seeing the money block consistently. So instead of deciding that I wanted to save myself from the disappointment of tracking and just not track in the first place, I asked the question, and we talked about this on an earlier day of Tashmas, does that serve me? So does it serve me to keep holding on to the belief that I'm going to have more disappointing days than excited days when I look at my income? And does it serve me to hold on to the belief that if I track my income each day and see those disappointing days, it's going to make me feel yucky? I could see that I was pinning a lot of my motivation and a lot of my emotional regulation on external results. That's exactly the reason why I needed to unhook those things. And tracking my income and noticing the impact a $0 day would have on me was the most powerful and straightforward way to even just notice that it was still having an impact on me, but also it allowed me to question why. Why am I, when I'm in the early stages of business, so disappointed by a $0 day that I allow it to send me into this downward spiral of I'm never going to be successful? I just didn't make any money today. Why am I making that mean I'm never going to be successful? And if I didn't track my income each day and allow myself the opportunity to actually investigate how I felt about a $0 day, pay attention to my feelings and validate those feelings and maybe dig underneath a little as to why I'm feeling that way, then I was actually avoiding the very thing that would help me move forward from it. And then the other thing was that I could see that there was this belief that paying attention to your money feels yucky. And so tracking my income was a form of paying attention to my money, and I didn't enjoy that process. I didn't enjoy looking at my money. But once again, does that serve me to consistently hold on to the belief that paying attention to my money doesn't feel nice? Or would I like to live in a world where paying attention to my money feels amazing? Would I like to live in a world where I expect more excitement days than disappointment days? Would I like to live in a world where, regardless of my external results, I continue to feel confident and positive and on the right path in terms of what I'm doing with my life and how well my business is performing? If I am allowing the little tiny thing of how much money I made today to create such a huge impact on how I feel and my motivation and my emotions, then is that really the world I want to maintain and sustain? Or would I rather live in a world where, regardless of what my income is for the day, I still feel amazing? So it was having that insight that was the number one reason why I decided I am going to write down my income goals and track my income every single day. And I made that decision like just a few weeks into starting my business. And so I really paid attention to how consistently I did it. And it was always in my daily habits note. So I would write down like, what are my daily habits that are going to help me to grow my business and align to my goals? And so that was always in my daily habits, was write down my income goal and track my income at the end of each day. Does that mean that I consistently tracked my income every single day from that moment forward? No, it doesn't. So even though I'd had that epiphany, even though I'd had that realization, something that I noticed was every few weeks, I would forget to write down my income goal and I would forget to track my income. And it was something that I really struggled to maintain. I would set the intention and I would, make that commitment to myself. I even had an alarm in my phone that went off at 4:45 every day to remind me to track my income for the day. I started ignoring the alarm. Then I turned the alarm off one day and never turned it back on again. And I really struggled to maintain more than 2 to 3 weeks of income tracking. And I found it fascinating. What is going on? Why is it that I am struggling to do it every single day? Now, at the time, if I missed 2 or 3 weeks of income tracking, I just would start again from the day I realized. So if I missed a day, I wouldn't catch it up from yesterday. I would just I'll do it for today. So at the time, the model of income tracking that I was doing was just literally writing down the amount each day at the end of the day in my journal. And my journal was not like a day planner. It didn't have days of the week mapped out to a page or anything like that. It was literally just blank pages journal. And so the last thing I did at the end of each day, when I remembered and when I was in the habit of doing it, was to just write down today's income total, and I would write the amount down. Fast forward to July 2015, and I still hadn't nailed it. I would track my income for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, then something would happen and I would stop for a week or two. And it was really interesting to me because whenever I missed a day, I ended up missing a week most of the time as a minimum. I think my record for how long I'd tracked consistently was about 6 weeks, but I'd never been able to do it really consistently. At the time, I was also facilitating a mastermind, and it had 6 members, and it was a really beautiful, high connection, high touch mastermind that I was running. And I also thought it would be really helpful if I got my mastermind peeps also tracking their income every day. And we'd had a conversation in one of our mastermind calls about income tracking and how powerful it was. And everyone in the mastermind had attempted it at some point in time, but hadn't been able to sustain it either. I also had a theory that I wanted to test out about my own money mindset because I could see and was starting to suspect that when I stopped tracking my income, it was because I'd had a few $0 days in a row. And so something else that I wanted to make sure that I did if I was going to embark upon tracking my income every day was that if I missed a day, I wanted to make sure I caught it up and that I actually went back and tracked it from when I had stopped rather than just starting from the day that I remembered. I felt like there was going to be some extra insights that I could gain from doing that. So what I proposed to the mastermind was that for our last 100 days together, which was coming up in the second half of 2015, we would set an income goal for 100 days. So each person would set their own income goal of what they wanted to earn in the next 100 days. My goal was 100K in 100 days. And I also proposed that we put together an artwork that represented our income goal in tiny little bite-sized pieces so that every time we had some income, we could color that progress in on the artwork. So I had seen, I think it was Leonie Dawson did like a thermometer of tracking your way to a goal. And she'd done it for her mailing list at the time, I think it was. And so I thought that was a really lovely idea, but I didn't like the thermometer thing. And so what I ended up doing was I got a big giant art canvas and I drew a giant $sign, and it was made up of all these tiny little hearts. And each heart was worth $87. So if I colored in every single heart worth $87, I would have $100,000 worth of hearts colored in. So this is actually where the whole concept of progress art was born. And it was such a powerful shift for me. It made the biggest difference between whether I tracked consistently or not. So I didn't make my 100K in 100 days goal for that first time around. I think it took me like 113 or 115 days, but it was super, super exciting. And I also was able to uncover through that 100-day process some very juicy insights as to what got me wobbly about tracking my income and writing down my money goals each day. So the first time I stopped tracking in that 100 days, I realized it probably 3 days later, and I went back to go and catch it up. And when I looked at the 3 days before I stopped tracking my income, they were all $0 days. And so it really did reinforce and prove my little hypothesis that having $0 days in a row was creating this resistance to tracking again. And it was really fascinating to pay attention to then how even though I tracked my $0 days for 3 days in a row, I was still I was tracking them, but I was avoiding how it made me feel. So there's two parts to the power of tracking your income. It's tracking the income, and then it's paying attention to how it feels and what your pop-up thoughts were. And so I was avoiding the second part of that process because it was a $0 day. So I just like, oh, well, it's zero. And then I'd just move on. And I wasn't creating time and space to process it. So something that I added in when I noticed that was that if I had a $0 day, I would journal 3 to 4 sentences on how I feel about my income and my income goal today. So because I was paying attention to that $0 day and I tracked it, but now I was also putting a little bit more time around it through this journaling practice, I was able to pay more attention to the thoughts and feelings and pop-up thoughts that went with it. So that was really, really helpful. However, I also discovered something else. I stopped tracking my income if I had a super high income day. So I remember I had an 11K day, and it was about 30, 40 days into the 100 days. And the very next day, I stopped tracking my income. Now, a bunch of things happened at that same time. I made 11K in cash in that one day. And that night, I put money into my mortgage. So I prepaid my mortgage 3 months in advance. I paid a deposit for a website development project with someone. And I also purchased my first ever backdrop from Emma Vega Malta of Bespoke Backdrops. She's responsible for my current backdrop. And so I had basically, before I went to bed, spent all of the money other than about $3,500. And when I woke up the next day, my bank account had been drained. So we had gone and got some money out a couple of days earlier. We were living in Bali at the time, and our card had been skimmed. And so when I woke up the next day after an 11K day, I noticed two things. Number one, I didn't track my income last night. And number two, my bank account is empty. What is going on? So then we had to get in touch with the bank and blah, 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 blah. And I just spent the whole time going, well, thank goodness I felt so uncomfortable having that money in my bank account that I spent most of it. And it was really interesting to see and witness with a lot of journaling in the following days, how much discomfort extra money in my bank account had caused me. I was so uncomfortable seeing a 5-figure sum in my bank account way back then that I had to get the money out. I paid my mortgage 3 months in advance just because I didn't want to have that much money sitting in my bank account. And so it was really fascinating. And so the money that I hadn't spent, I still found a way to get rid of it. My bank account got drained. Now, another thing came from me tracking my income every day from there. So I started tracking my income again, probably 2 or 3 days after my bank account got drained, and I caught it up. Right? So I made sure that I caught it up for my progress art, and I had received a message from the bank 2 or 3 days after the drain had happened, and they'd said, yep, look, in most cases, we reimburse you for the money that's lost. It is insured, so you're totally fine. It just takes a few days, sometimes a week or so, for us to process it all, and we'll let you know what our decision is, and then we will reimburse you the money. And so I became very fixated on getting my money back. I became so fixated on getting my money back that for the next 12 days, I did not bring in another cent in my business. Not 1 cent. I had 12 $0 income days in a row. And it was fascinating to me to watch this because I actually had a membership and I had people on payment plans. And so people whose payment plans had never failed before, their payment didn't come through. Either they had insufficient funds, or their card had been stolen and cancelled, or it had expired. I had people in the membership, their payments had never failed before, and their payment just didn't go through. And it was fascinating. If I didn't believe in energetic blocks to money before this experience, I did after, because it showed me how much I was pushing money away because I was so fixated on getting this one bit of money back. And I did eventually get it back, but oh my goodness, it was so fascinating to see how I became so fixated on that money was mine, I need that money back, and I closed down every other source of income for 12 whole days. And at this point in time, because of the membership and the payment plans and my mastermind and all of the things that were going on, I rarely had more than 2 $0 income days in a row. I had a streak of, I think, 52 days before we'd started the progress art, 52 days in a row where I had made money every single day. That's the extent to which it was completely out of the norm for me to not have income within a 12-day period. So it just created so many insights and showed me how big of a role my money mindset, my money blocks, my pop-up thoughts, my emotions, my resistance to money was having on tangible income and the results in my business. So that is actually where Progress Art was born. So following that 100 days, I decided to spread the word about income tracking, but not just income tracking, using progress artwork to track your way to an income goal. And since that 2015 round with my mastermind, I have facilitated multiple rounds of a course that I used to run. I don't run it anymore, and it was 100 days of color, which then got rebranded to 100 days of progress art. I have trademarked the progress art term as a brand trademark. And I also made a progress art coloring book back in 2021. Whilst I was recovering from a surgery, I actually created a bunch of little progress art artworks, and on the left-hand side, there's a tracking sheet, and on the right-hand side, there's the progress art for the coloring in. So I thought, as this is day 5 of Tashmas, that I will give away and post to you anywhere in the world 5 copies of my progress art coloring book. It is still available to purchase to this day. I don't talk about progress art as much and income tracking as much at the moment because following my surgery in 2021, I really struggled to get my health and my energy and my well-being back. And so I really narrowed my business right back down to just focusing on my core programs and my VIP clients whilst I was still increasing my hours of work and rebuilding my energy and my focus in my business. So I haven't done much with Progress Art since launching the colouring book, and I ran my last round of the 100 Days of Progress Art program. But the Progress Art colouring book is still there. I still have limited quantities available for sale, but I thought, why not give away some copies of the Progress Art colouring books, because they are really, really gorgeous. And something that you should know about me is I don't actually enjoy colouring in. I'm not a good colour in for no reason kind of person. So people often buy me adult colouring books thinking that I'm obsessed with adult colouring because of my Progress Art colouring book. But the reason why I love it so much is because it's colouring with purpose. And there are so many little things that you get out of creating an artwork that's aligned to your income goal. Like, for example, when I finally did catch up my colouring for my 11K day, I spent most of the time colouring and going, oh, this is so much work. This is the worst. And it was so fascinating to me that I was oh, making all this money is terrible because now I have to colour in all of these tiny little hearts and this is taking me forever. And I thought, this is a joy. This should be a joy for me to colour this in and celebrate this $11,000. But I did not find it joyful. And it was almost like it reflected an underlying belief that if I made more money, I'd have to work harder. So Progress Art is responsible for me uncovering a bunch of ways where I had some money blocks or some beliefs that made me close down my openness to money. It made me resistant to making money, but also Progress Art has helped me understand how much resistance I had to also keeping money. So over the years, I have made dozens of Progress artworks. I have done big year-long artworks. I've done little mini 30-day artworks. I use my Progress Art colouring book to track my way to other goals as well. So I use Progress Art for tracking habits. I use Progress Art for tracking list growth. I've used it for tracking short-term income goals as well. So I thought, why not? Let's do a giveaway. And all you need to do if you would like to enter to win one of these 5 copies of the Progress Art colouring book is to head to the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/385. And there will be a link to a post on my Facebook page where you can enter simply by sharing in the comments what your income goal is. So you can give me what your monthly income goal is, or what your income goal is for this year, or if you decide to set a 100-day income goal like I did, then I don't mind what the time frame is, or whether it's the next month or going for 10K months eventually, whatever it might be. So I want you to come and share with me what your income goal is. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, now I will say a goal shared is a goal magnified. If you can feel confident and comfortable enough to share your income goal publicly, you are sending out huge waves and ripples out into the universe and out into the world that are really shifting time and space to make that goal happen. So I do love a public share of an income goal. But I understand if it's your first time, it might feel a little confronting, it might be a little much. If that's the case, instead, you are welcome to share what was your main reason for not tracking your income regularly or writing your income goal down regularly, and what's one reason why you're willing to give it a shot now. So you can either share your income goal or let me know what was your main reason for not doing it and before, and why you are willing to start writing your goals down daily or tracking your income each day now. And even if it's just it's getting me closer, but I'm still not there, I want you to let me know. This is a conversation after all. If you have any questions about Progress Art or income tracking or writing down your goals consistently as well, please do ask them over on that post. I'm happy for this to be a little bit of a Q&A about income tracking and goal setting and those sorts of things. And please do also reach out if you would like to purchase a copy of the Progress Art colouring book. I can send you the link as well. I'll also include the link with the show notes at tashcorbin.com/385. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast, day 5 of Tashmas. Woo! And we will be back for day 6 tomorrow. So until then, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.